Parshas Noach, Tov Shin, Pei Vav. What an interesting parsha. And as I like to say every year when we learn Parshas Noach, the idea is to come to the table this week, to come to your Shabbos, and you want to say over something from Parshas Noach, that it should not look exactly the same way as it did to you when you were in first grade. These Parshias, Noach, and then we're going to get to Avram Avinu and the Avos and the Imois. So we have a picture of what happened back then from when we were little kids. And the idea is we're supposed to graduate a little bit, we're supposed to grow, we're supposed to look a little deeper. And this week's shir from the Nesivos Shalom is a very, very interesting thing because it's actually a way of looking at the Parsha that honestly for all the years that I've been learning Parshas Noach, and most of us, I would have never thought of this. And I would have never come at what goes on in this Parsha from this angle. So you want to know already what I'm talking about. So I'm going to tell you. The Torah tells us about the Mabul. I'm going to read you some of the psukim and then we're going to explain and we're going to have a tremendous thought about these psukim. B'chodesh hasheni, in the second month, b'shiva asar yom lachodesh, in the 17th day of Mar Cheshvan, which is in about 2 weeks from now, right? By yom hazeh nivku kol ma'anos tohim rabba. That basically what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, ba'rubois hashamayim niftachu, is that the water came from underneath, from above, everything went crazy. It was a serious plumbing problem in the entire world. The Pasuk tells us that. So what happened when the water started coming? Torah tells us that too. Vayhi hageshem al ha'oretz, arboim yoim v'arboim loyla. It rained for 40 straight days and 40 nights. And what happened after that? The Torah continues and tells us what happened. V'hamayim gavru ma'oid ma'oid v'yigberu hamayim al oretz chamishimu ma'as yoim. The water for 150 days, it was very high water. So lots of stuff went on here. So aside from describing to us, the Torah describing to us how many days it rained and what the water did and what the water did while it was on the earth, there's something, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that's very, very fascinating that's going on throughout these psukim. And I really wonder if anybody ever thought of this. And if you did, well, you could show me by a raise of hands, and we'll see how many people thought of this. Has anybody realized that throughout all these psukim that tell us about the Mabul, it does not say even once that Hashem did any of this? Not once. It doesn't say. You read through the psukim, the water happened, the flooding happened, the earth opened up, the skies opened up, everything opened up. Does not say once that Hashem did it. And it's in direct contrast, very, very unlike in a couple of weeks, right? In another couple of weeks, we're going to have another one of these type of stories. And I don't like to say the word stories, but episodes and things that we're supposed to learn from. We're going to read in the Torah about destruction of Sodom va'Amorah. We know what the people of Sodom va'Amorah were like, and Hashem decided also that Sodom va'Amorah had to be destroyed. And let's look at the psukim over there. What does the Torah tell us? Right away. V'Hashem himtir al Sodom v'al Amorah gofris va'esh. Hashem did it. Of course Hashem did it, right? The Torah tells us straight out that Hashem did it. Next pasuk. Vayihi b'shaches Elokim esorei hakikar. What it happened when Hashem destroyed the cities of the Kikar. It says Elokim, Hashem did it. What a stark contrast. By the Mabul, Parshas Noach, nothing about Hashem. It would seem that everything happened on its own. And by Sodom va'Amorah, it seems that this Hashem involved every single step of the way. So what's going on here? What's the difference? Where is Hashem in the Mabul? So the Nesivos Shalom explains, and he tells us a beautiful, beautiful thing. He says, you know, the Torah, there are a lot of Isurim in the Torah. the Torah tells us that we can't do or we have to do certain things. And for many of these Isurim, the Torah tells us about the punishment that someone could get for transgressing one of the lav and mitzvahs of the Torah. The Torah tells us different types of punishment. But says in Nesivos Shalom, that a person has to know that the biggest type of punishment that there is the punishment called hashlacha, which means where Hashem Kaviyachol says, I'm out. I'm removing my hashgacha from what's going on. Hashem, we know, runs every little thing in the world. You wake up in the morning, you put your feet off the bed, you open your eyes, everything that goes on, that's something that we're constantly knowing that we have to realize and we have to learn and we have to see. And everything, Hashem's involved, and there's no such thing as nature in motion. Hashem sets certain things to look like they're in motion, but Hashem is doing every little thing. And the worst thing, says in the Nesivos Shalom, is when Hashem Kaviyachol says, I'm removing myself, I'm not part of this. And of course, we all remember, we said it so many times in Slichas just a couple of weeks ago. We're about a week after Sukkot now, so Rosh Hashanah and Slichas Elul wasn't so long ago. We said in Slichas how many times that David HaMelech had a very, very specific request from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What was that request? That request was, Al tashlicheni milfanecha. Hashlacha. He requested, David HaMelech did not ask Hashem, don't punish me, don't do anything to me. That's not what David HaMelech asked. David HaMelech asked, he's ready to be Makabel, Yisurin, anything. But this one request, Al tashlicheni milfanecha, this should not be hashlacha. Don't let me become detached and disconnected from Hashem. I want Hashem in my life at all times and every step in the way. Because that, if Hashem's not in my life, that I can't bear. I cannot bear that. David HaMelech was saying, because that's the worst type of punishment. And we know the worst type of punishment any parent, any father can give to a child is when you ask the child to leave. I can't. Right? We have nothing to do with each other anymore. That is the worst punishment. As long as a father is still punishing a child, it means that he cares, that he's part of your life, that we have something to do. Nobody punishes something they have nothing to do with. You see somebody walking down the street, he does something crazy, you just go like this, or you say whatever, and you move on. You don't care about him. You have nothing to do with them. But if it's your child, and you walk away, then something is very wrong. And that is what, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that is what the Mabul was. Hashem totally took his hashgacha away from the world. Because the entire Bria, the entire world was Batishalchei ha'aretz lifnei ha'olikim, Batimolei ha'aretz chamas. What does it mean? What does the Torah tells you? The entire Bria was hashchasa. It was corrupt. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the most severe punishment. There's nothing for me here. Everybody is corrupt. There's nothing for me here. That's the punishment of hashlacha. So Hashem took the hashgacha, the day-to-day, minute-to-minute, second-by-second running of the world away. And the Mela, once Hashem walks out of the equation, everything goes haywire. So the Torah tells us the Tahaim, the Shamayim, the Geshem, Hashem removed his hashgacha. So now it seemed that it was all Hashem. The lesson to us is that if Hashem is not watching over every little thing, every little second, then everything falls apart. Everything's going to go crazy. So the Torah tells us that all this happened. Why? Because Hashem took his hashgacha away, and therefore there is no name of Hashem by the Mabul. There's no name of Hashem. It doesn't say anything about Hashem because Hashem Kaviyachol walked away. Hashem Kaviyachol said, I'm not taking care of it anymore. There's so much corruption. It does not say that Hashem actively did anything. Everything that happened was a result of Hashem not monitoring the day-to-day hashgacha. And this is really the lesson that we have to learn from such a thing. Besides, let me just, as a side point, and I think the Nesivos Shalom says it might be Parshat Vayer also, that Sodom V'Amorah was different because it was very specific. A specific group of people that went, whatever. So Hashem, that alone was not enough to have Hashem, Kaviyachol, walk away. That's where punishment comes in. Hashem is still part of the equation. And what we have to remember, and what we see in the Parsha, and how this applies to us, the Torah tells us, Im bechukoisai telechu. Before you turn around, it'll be already almost Shavuos. You're learning Parshas bechukoisai. Everybody knows the famous Rashi, Im bechukoisai telechu, that if you're amelim b'Torah, the Torah tells us what you're going to get. If you go bechukoisai telechu, the pasuk tells us, v'nosati gishmeichem b'itam. I'll send the rain. The rain is also refers to parnasa. If you keep the Torah, if you bechukoisai, if you go, chukim are the chukois shamayim v'orek, says in the Nesivos Shalom. Im bechukoisai telechu. If you do things the way they're supposed to be, if you follow the Torah, then the chukois of the shamayim will be kept up by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sending the rain, sending parnasa, sending. So it's like a midah keneged midah. You keep the chukim, you live by the rules. Hashem says, I, Kaviyachol, will live by the rules too, and I will send you the bracha, and I'll send you the shefa. The lesson that we have to learn also is that sometimes things don't go exactly as we think, and we're I don't want to say the word upset, but we realize that we start to think a little bit, is Hashem with us? You have to understand that when things don't go exactly your way, it means that Hashem is taking care of you. He's putting you back in line. I don't have time to go through the whole rest of the Nesivos Shalom. And Nesivos Shalom compares it to when a shepherd leads a flock and he's hitting the sheep with his stick, but the sheep understand that they're being hit with the stick, so they shouldn't walk off and walk into traffic, walk off the road, walk into a body of water. He's keeping them in line. When we feel sometimes that things are a little bit, Gemara says a person has to worry if everything is always perfect in their life, because that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not helping you out. He's not keeping you in line. And that's one of the lessons that we need to learn, that sometimes you turn around and you say, and I understand, say, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It didn't go exactly my way, but I learned my lesson, and I'm going to be better next time. I'm going to stay a little more on the road. And the other lesson we have to learn is how fortunate we are that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always part of our lives. Whatever we do, whatever we accomplish, everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We ourselves can do nothing. And what a blessing, what a bracha it is that we have HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you see what happens in our parsha, that when Hashem removes himself from the equation, when Hashem takes himself out of the picture, then things do not go very well. And that's the reason why, and it's something, I don't know if anybody, I never thought of this before. We learned it, I don't know how many hundreds of times, Parshas Noach, right? They even write songs about it there. Noach was a big tzaddik. I know it's going to be a big one tomorrow. We're going to hear it all over, right? But the bottom line is that we have to realize that the name of Hashem is not there. The name of Hashem is not there. It's not there for a reason. Let's grow. Let's try to grow from these lessons. Like we said, not to learn Parshas Noach like we did when we were in first grade. Think a little deeper. Think about what went on those days. Think about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised afterwards. And if we all grow, we'll be zoiche to always have Hashem in our lives 24/7.